Hey everyone, Paul Johnson, Waconia, Minnesota, and the Laughing Trail Fly Tying Club. Today I'm going to be tying my Lunchbox hopper. So this fly got its name a number of years ago. It was the first time I fished the Missouri River, really the first time in Montana, by Craig, Montana. A friend of mine were fishing in a boat behind the guide and another guy, so wasn't fishing directly with this guide. But we caught up to him at lunchtime. We had caught a few fish, nothing to write home about. As we are getting ready for lunch, there was a fish rising not far from the boat, and the guide says, "Hey, Paul, why don't you try to catch that fish?" So I threw out the hopper, deer hair hopper like this. Fish ate it right away. I set the hook. The fish took off running. I held on for dear life, and of course, I broke the fish off. So that was my introduction to this deer hair hopper that I now call the Lunchbox hopper. So I tied on a size 8 hopper hook. I put a little bit of a red tail, and that's red EP fibers. There's a body, and this little bubble is yellow parapost. It does have brown hackle for a ribbing in there. There's an underwing of pheasant feather. The overwing and the head are deer hair, and then the legs are knotted up pheasant tail fibers. So let's get started. As I mentioned, this is a size 8 hopper hook. I'll also tie it on a size 10. For thread, I'm going to be using some 6/0 uni. I'm going to start that about the 3/4 point and just wrap in a thread base there. Got just a little clump of that EP fibers. Tie that in. And then I'll trim that off about a hook gap in length. Okay, next I'm going to tie in the length of that yellow parapost. And just making sure we keep this right on top of the hook shank. Don't want to take the thread to move it around when we tie it in. All right, now I'm just going to make a little bit of a bubble here. All right, now I've got just a brown hackle feather. Certainly don't use good dry fly hackle because we're going to trim it down. This is being difficult. There we go. Then I'll wrap that parapost material. And if you didn't have this, you could use just some yellow dubbing or whatever color you want for that hopper. We're just going to wrap that up to that 3/4 point, and then I'll trim off that excess. Okay, for that feather, again, what we're going to do here is you're going to say, "Oh, that's a big feather." Well, I'm not using this feather at all to float the fly. I'm really just making it, using this feather to give it that ribbed look. And so I'm going to come in here and cut most of that feather off. So just even space wraps up. So I'm just going to come in and just round it off. I suppose it makes sense maybe just to go to a real small hackle and then wouldn't have to do this. But this is the way we do it. All right, just kind of clean that up a little bit so you get the idea. All right, next, I took a pheasant feather. Kind of like the looks of it. I hit it with a little bit of Flexament. And I'm going to tie that in and form kind of an underwing. Get rid of that excess. And then I've got those pheasant tail fibers. So what I did is I took 5 pheasant tail fibers, put an overhand knot in them to form the legs. Tie around one end on each side. Try to get that joint evened up. On the side, Paul, we're going to try to wrap this in so it gets on the side of the hook. There we go. Still not on the side of the hook. There we go. And then I'll just hit those and trim them off. Get the front tied. And if you wanted to hit this with a little bit of super glue, now would be the time to do that. Tie that down real good. All right, so now I've got a clump of deer hair that I've stacked, cleaned and stacked, just the right amount. A little bit less. I'm going to trim off the butt ends so I don't have so much material here to work with. And this is going to form the overwing and then the head. So a couple good wraps of tying thread. All right. Now I'll spin my vise around. I hope you can see that okay. I've got another clump of deer hair. And this time I've trimmed off the tips. Tie that in right on the bottom of the fly. A couple tight wraps. Position everything and make sure it's not twisting around too bad. A couple more real tight wraps there. And then we'll move our thread forward. All right, and I've got one more clump of the deer here. And I'm going to tie that in the front there. Oh, man, this may spin around a little bit. Nope. Kind of move it around, push it back now so I can find the eye of my hook. A couple more tight wraps of thread in there. Push it all back a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to come in and just do a couple half-hitch knots. All right. So now all that's left is to trim this thing up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to use another straight edge razor blade. So I usually like to start on the bottom. I'll pull them legs and get those out of the way and just cut straight back. And then I'll come and cut straight up to form kind of this square head. Then a little bit off on each side. Hope you can see that okay. Again, you got to watch out for those legs. You nick them, there's no going back. And then again on the top. Okay, that's enough that I dare to do with that razor blade. So I'll just come in and spend a few more minutes cleaning this thing all up. So there you have it. Oh, bottoms are bad. Get some of those out of there. There you go. And again, I'd spend probably another 4 or 5 minutes cleaning this thing all up. So there it is, the Lunchbox Hopper. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.